The fundamentals for palladium are fantastic. We think we've got a project that's fairly straightforward. It's open pit, it's not very deep. We believe it's going to grow a few multiples of where it is now on a systematic approach without applying a huge amount of risk. Because it's only been open for exploration for 20 odd years, it's underexplored. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, and we see that in our project, which if this data was available, let's say in a North American context, it would have been followed up on.
Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We're here today with Derrick Weyrauch. He's the CEO of Palladium One Mining. How are you, sir?
Very well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're over here for the one-to-one?
I am indeed.
Meeting a bunch of investors, I guess, and telling your story?
Speed dating at its best.
Speed dating. It's a pretty good format, right?
Absolutely. I like the half-hour speed dating. Get to see a lot of people and get the story out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, Derrick, why don't we just start with 1 minute summary for people new to the story, and then we'll kick off from there.
Okay. Well, Palladium One, it's basically a brand new story exploration and development company. Its flagship asset is the LK project in Finland. It's a palladium dominant polymetallic deposit. We just published our first resource for the company in September. 1.2 million ounces of palladium equivalent in all categories, split roughly 50-50 between indicated and inferred. Indicated 1.5 grams palladium equivalent, and 1.8 and 1.5 grams for the inferred, so weighted average about 1.65. And we've got a 38-kilometer favorable basal contact, and this is just covering 1.1 kilometers of that contact. So a lot of territory to still hit.
A lot of story to tell.
Absolutely.
A lot of story to tell. So let's start off with the obvious question.
Sure.
Palladium. What's it used for?
Palladium is really, in my view, an industrial metal. About 86% of it is consumed in the auto catalyst, and it's really a metal for providing clean air. Predominantly, it's used on the gas engine. So you'd see it in the catalyst, and basically scrubs the nitrous oxide and carbon monoxide. And with increasing environmental standards for air quality, there's more and more palladium loading going into the auto catalyst that's feeding the demand. The other aspect with the palladium is that with the demise of diesel that we see going on since Volkswagen Gate, if you want to call it that, or Dieselgate, consumers are transitioning away from the diesel engine into the gas engine, and there's more demand as a result of that for palladium, and there's been a structural deficit in supply for a number of years.
Okay, what is the size of the market?
The global mine production is about 6.9 million ounces, so fairly small. There's another 3 million ounces that come from recycling. But as I said, that's roughly 10 million ounce market, 86% of which goes into the auto catalyst. There are other applications for jewelry and dentistry and things like that, but it's, for the most part, I consider it industrial metal, and not so much on the investment side of things.
So you're a relatively new story.
Absolutely. People haven't really heard of it.
Haven't heard of it. You've got 3-4 million market cap, so you're pretty small. How much cash have you got in there?
We're just in the process of closing a financing, about $3.8 million. So that should close in the very near future. The lead order on that was with Eric Sprott, so he's taking about 1.2 million of that financing, which will give him about 19.9% ownership interest on a non-diluted basis in the company.
So you're in Finland.
Finland, north central Finland.
So what's that like to operate in? Again, it's new to us.
Finland is absolutely a fantastic jurisdiction. It was really only open to private mining investments since the 1990s. Previously, it was pretty much state-run via Outokumpu. And what we like to tell people is Finland has first world geological data sets. The information is fantastic. Lots of high quality mapping, reconnaissance, drilling, assaying, and whatnot. And all that information is publicly available. Even the assays, or rather the core, is available as well. But because it's only been open for exploration for 20 odd years, it's underexplored. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, and we see that in our project, which if this data was available, let's say in a North American context, it would have been followed up on. We have at our Morto Lampe target, for example, we've got a nice 200-meter fence with a number of holes in it going down about 40 meters, all mineralized, holes for the most part ending in mineralization. It's been sitting there for 20 years. Nobody's ever poked a hole around there or done any follow-up work. So that's just low-hanging fruit and gives us an obvious target to go after.
Okay, interesting. So if I can just start off talking about the team first, because with new companies, you always got to work out who you're getting into bed with, okay?
Exactly.
We need to understand who here has exited, made money for shareholders, built companies, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, the company's been completely changed over the course of 2019. So brand new management, brand new board.
So who's delivered before?
So Peter Lightfoot, for example, we brought him on the board in September. He used to be the head of project generation, nickel-based sulfides for Vale, Inco Vale.
Right, but this is exploration. That's big boy territory. So but he's done it in an exploration company because it's different.
Well, they're also finding some fairly large deposits in those big boy companies as well, right? And so he's one individual. Neil Pettigrew is another individual. He's our vice president of exploration, also on the board. He's actually based in Thunder Bay, and what brought him to Thunder Bay a number of years ago was the palladium boom. A couple decades ago, that North American Palladium, for example, was part of Lac Basile.
Okay. What about you?
And I'm a finance guy by background, about 30 years in the capital markets. And most recently I was the CFO for Jaguar Mining, did the restructuring there a few years ago. And prior to that, also was with Andina Minerals, which we sold to Hochschild Mining back in early 2013.
Right, okay, okay. A few names there. So let's talk about the business plan. It's new. You've obviously thought about what you're trying to do. So can you just tell us what the plan is, how you're going to do it, who's going to do it, how you're going to fund it? Well,
really what we're going to do is leverage off of the data set that's already available for the project. And we have 38 kilometers worth of favorable basal contact.
But before you get into what you're going to deliver, tell us what the idea, what type of company you're going to build. That's what I'm interested in.
We're growing a resource base.
Right, that's the model.
Right now.
Okay.
Absolutely. To get to that critical mass where you may want to put it into operation, or perhaps somebody takes a shine for the asset and decides they'd like to have it.
Right, so you're going to build a large resource. Hopefully that's attractive to someone who will take it to the next stage.
Exactly.
That's the model.
Exactly.
Understood.
We're not currently configured for a development scenario, so we're not going to fool ourselves.
Right, okay. Well, that's great. Some people do tell that story without necessarily being convincing. So that's the model. Okay, great. And those are the types of people that you've got on board to be able to deliver that business plan.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. So how do you finance this thing? You're raising a little bit of money now, and that's for presumably the season's drilling?
It's predominantly for the LK project in Finland. We do have another project in Ontario, a nickel sulfide asset, but the money is really earmarked for exploration in Finland, conducting geophysics programs, so IP, as well as a diamond drilling program that we hope to initiate this winter. Be 4,000 to 5,000 meters of drilling, so hopefully we have some very consistent news flow.
So I don't know where you are in Finland, so is it seasonal there? Can you drill 12 months of the year?
You can drill 12 months a year. As a matter of fact, it's a preference to drill in the winter. It's easier to get around. If you have moisture in the soil and whatnot, just track right over it.
Fantastic. So where are you based?
I'm based in Toronto.
Okay, so you've obviously got a local team there.
Yeah, exactly. But for the most part at this stage, we're still relying on consultants. Right? We're early days for us. We've only been configured like this for about 6 months with this management team and board, so we're still building it.
Okay, so when do you actually get boots on the ground then?
Well, we've had boots on the ground this summer already. So we have people there working for us, but in a consulting capacity.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to understand is you've got your business plan, you've got the team on board now, you've got some boots on the ground, you're out telling the story, right? When do people start seeing things move? What do you think people are going to be interested in hearing next? Because you're at this conference. So you obviously think there's something to say.
Well, the key message is that we've got a very interesting property package, which is that 38 kilometer of basal contact. Less than 4 kilometers of it has had systematic drilling. Based on the historical data set we get from Outokumpu and others, we have seen a tremendous amount of reconnaissance drilling and sampling that's happened along the contact. So we know it's generally mineralized and we know where to go. So there's very good targeting that's already taken place.
Right.
And with only 4 kilometers of a 38 kilometer trend, having had systematic drilling, our job is really to expand out and grow the resources more so. The Kukua deposit, where we announced the resource in September, it's only 1 kilometer of that 4 where we've got those ounces and that resource.
Right.
So our job is to do the geophysics, target into the higher sulfide areas along that contact and drill those out. And we envision having a situation where we have multiple resources, perhaps a multiple open pit environment. We're not really looking at an underground scenario at this point. Our resource is pit constrained, and the pit only goes down to about 275 meters, so fairly shallow.
So you think you've got a very good sense of what the asset is and what's sitting underground, right? But I'm interested in it. I love hearing the stories from management as to how they go about, especially with a market cap like yours. With you're not going to raise a whole bunch of cash. How do you manage all of this? How do you watch the pennies? Clearly, you can watch the pennies, but those small baby steps to kind of move it forward to the next interesting point where you then go and raise some more capital. So what are the things that are constraining you now?
Well, capital is always a constraint when you're pre-revenue, right? So that's the big issue for any junior explorer. So you have to have sufficient reason and justification to be able to raise the next chunk of money. So what we did is we spent the summer validating all the historical information, putting a very robust resource together, pit constrained. We tripled the cutoff grade from what had been done by previous operators, and demonstrating that this is real. It's not an aggressive estimate by any means. We only used a price assumption of $1,100 for palladium as an example, whereas the market right now is over $1,700 per ounce.
Yeah.
So we've got that. We show the historical information that we have on the property, and then it's a matter of just systematically working that property. One of the luxuries that we have in this particular situation is we don't have to come up with any black box magic and new geological theory that's maybe a little bit out there, because this project's been looked at time and time again. This is more taking a systematic, proven approach and working your way through the property.
So people have looked at it before. There's data sets around. So why hasn't anyone done this before on your property? Why now?
Well, the property was released by Outokumpu. As they released lots of properties and was sitting in inventory, so to speak. It was picked up by a prospector in 2006. Was flipped into a Vancouver junior. They did one program of exploration at the Kukua area, and they got caught with the downturn in 2008, 2009, and weren't able to really survive that. The asset then moved, and some additional properties were added to it, or additional claims, to another junior out of Vancouver that were able to do one program in 2012. But they had challenges with the 2012-2013 downturn. Nothing's happened to the project since. It's just been sitting there, and ultimately moved into Palladium One. So there's no market awareness, only 2 real programs, and nobody's followed up on the prior program. So we're getting.
But awareness in itself isn't going to keep this thing necessarily on the straight and narrow. So how do you? What are the? It's all about risk mitigation. Right?
Absolutely.
For you, that's what you're a turnaround guy, you're a finance guy. It's risk mitigation the whole way, right? So how do you stop this company, because it's a small company starting out? How do you ensure it's not another statistic, on the side of the road? What are the things that you need to deliver stage by stage to ensure that we're still having this conversation in a couple of years' time? Well,
we need to grow the resource in a prudent way and go for and target the low-hanging fruit easily.
So what does that mean?
Build the resource. So we've defined a resource right now. Our immediate target is to double that. Right. And we believe we have a path to double that in fairly short order. Well, I'm not going to say it's going to happen in the next program. That might be a little bit aggressive, but I think in the next year we would have a good shot of doing that with sufficient amount of drilling. Okay. We've got a budget now for a drilling program. We're going to be doing 4,000 to 5,000 meters of drilling. The reality is that we have to do a little bit of a balancing act. So there's a little bit about upgrading the historical information to be able to bring another zone into resource, but then there's also the aspect of how much more discovery do you want to get. Okay, so is that what you sold into someone like, you mentioned Eric Sprott, right? 19%-ish? Ish, yeah. Ish. He's quite vocal. Yep. This is really option money for someone like that. Absolutely. Right. So, but he that's the story he bought into, as you said. We're going to basically there's a resource growth opportunity here that's not high risk. There's very limited investment alternatives for palladium. Yep. The fundamentals for palladium are fantastic. 80% of production comes from South Africa and from Russia. Right. 90% of production is a byproduct of other mining operations, whether it be nickel or platinum. As a result of that, producers have little capacity to increase palladium production to meet the demand. Okay. The commodity has been in a deficit position for 8 years and is forecasted to continue. The forecast for 2019 is about an 800,000 ounce deficit in a market that's only producing 7 million ounces. It's a big problem. Okay. And what's also interesting is the two primary palladium producers globally, the Stillwater and the North American Palladium, they've both been acquired by South Africans, taking the money and investing in other jurisdictions, whether it be Montana or Ontario. Okay. So it's a market where there's limited capacity to increase supply from the existing producers. And we think we've got a project that's fairly straightforward. It's open pit, it's not very deep. We believe it's going to grow a few multiples of where it is now on a systematic approach without applying a huge amount of risk. Okay, final question. Why should anyone look at your company versus the multitude of other junior miners or early stage companies? Why should they trust you to help them make money? It's a great question. I think it starts off with the commodity. Right. This fundamental demand, it makes sense for the commodity. You told us very well. Yeah. Secondly, the asset. There's limited investment alternatives if you're looking for exposure to palladium. Stillwater's gone, North American Palladium's gone, where else are you going to invest? You've got a systematic, simple approach to increasing the resource, so it's not high risk. And on top of that, we're in a tier 1 jurisdiction. Finland is a fantastic place to work. You've got rule of law and systems. It's mining friendly. There's smelters locally. We've got power on the property. We've got roads to the property. It's just a nice jurisdiction to be in. Okay, well, we look forward to seeing how the story develops. Stay in touch. Let us know how things are getting on, and we will see you hopefully in London soon. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also catch us on our website, cruxinvestor.com, and Cruxcast, our podcast series. Plus, most days you can catch us on LinkedIn and Twitter. We'd love getting your feedback, so please keep that coming, and we'll speak to you again soon.